anymore. Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo.
Please continue to hold for the next available representative.
Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo.
We appreciate you waiting and waiting. What is it you're waiting for? Do you even know anymore?
These are people who work hard but no longer have a voice. I am your voice.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new rendition of the weekly wrap-up. We've got some stuff to talk about tonight. We have to talk about Indiana. Are the RINOs betraying us? What is going to happen with redistricting in the state of Indiana? We're going to cover it. We're also going to cover the 2025 updates and whatever you guys want to bring up in the super chats. And if we hit that goal, then we go directly to the live chats, the entirety of whatever you guys are saying. So like that stream down below. Let's get to 100 likes. And by the way, we're on the back end of 224K. The goal of 225K by election night seems like it's going to be hit, but if you're new and just tuning in for the first time, or you've not yet hit that subscribe button, make sure you do hit that subscribe button because we have a lot to get to. We're going to be getting to Indiana. I'm sure we're going to be getting to a lot of different stuff in the super chats. I mean, you got this ballroom thing. People are upset that Donald Trump is actually adding a much needed renovation to the White House and not on taxpayer money, by the way, which I think is something that is really noble, but everybody's upset about it. People that pretend to care about American history are pretending to care about American history, and they don't want to add to it, I guess. I don't know. Even though it makes sense, it makes the most sense out of pretty much anything. What the next president you get in there is going to tear down the ballroom again? Are they going to rebuild the old East Wing? Is that really what they're doing? Because we need this. We need this thing to host events, to host, other nations. It's just a good thing to have. You need a ballroom in the White House. Make it happen. Why would you not want it? Donald Trump wanted to do this even when Obama was president. They wouldn't let him. And now he's trying to do it. Well, he has the time. He has the resources. He has the ability now more than ever, and they're doing it. And knowing him, he's a builder, and that's exactly what he's building. Obama built a basketball court in the White House. You can insert whatever joke you want there. but he literally did. I think he also had tennis courts. He had all sorts of stuff. A lot of presidents have had a lot of different things added to the White House. If I was president, I'd probably renovate it if I could, make it my dream home for 4-8 years, or maybe even more. We'll see. But as for Donald Trump, he really wants to get this done, and it's good. It's good. I think it's something that we need, regardless of whatever the complainers say. So hit that like button. Hit that like button. Let's get the show on the road here tonight. I know it's late, but we always stream late, and that's the way it goes. So we're almost there, and we got there. So here we go. We're alive. We have the face cam, and Indiana, these weak Republicans don't get it. Like, I don't understand what it is with the Republican establishment, but these people, they have Stockholm syndrome. Like, I don't understand. You have different states across the nation on the left, and an increasing number of states across the nation on the left that are willing to go to extreme lengths to get more Democrat seats ahead of a midterm that should on paper favor them, right? Like, where's the blue wave? Last time they gained 40 seats. This time around, they should be aiming for at least like 30, right? You would imagine. You'd imagine they'd be aiming for around 30, 40, 50 if Trump is such a horrible leader, horrible president, such as they claim. But in reality, that's not what the polls are showing. That's not what a lot of other things are showing. And Republicans understand they have a prime opportunity to take their trifecta. You have increased Republican majorities in Florida and Texas at the presidential level. Obviously, the state legislatures and governors of both of those states want to make their maps reflect what is going on here, especially with the census undercount, the everything that we've seen, and most importantly, nobody ever talks about it, the absolute desecration and transformation of the United States since the Hart-Celler Act, where you would have a very different country, a very different Overton window. You know, there's never really been any talk of any sort of reparation for that whatsoever, any sort of, what concessions do the original Americans get? Nothing, really. Well, this would be a perfect time to justify maybe making sure that you can use power the way the left does. It's like a very minimum question, a very low bar to clear. A very low bar to clear for these weak Republicans. And Indiana, you have a blue area that's trending to the right. Why not just take the Democrats and put them out of their misery? Can we just do that in that first district and draw a red one? Maybe you divvy up Indianapolis. Maybe you don't even need to. But at least go with an 8-1. It makes sense. You're already at 7-2. Their geography is awful. It's going to be 8-1 by the end of the decade anyways. You could put them out of their misery. They're playing for keeps. You could do something to effectively mitigate what's going on here. You could effectively just go out there and draw out one Democrat, if not two, but no, they don't want to do it. They won't do it because they're weak and they die on principles none of which are winning. This is not moral character. This is cowardice. Moral character shows, yes, I will fight for something that I believe in at all costs and I will win. That's moral character. This is not moral character. This is stupidity. This is the Reagan-era brain rot that has impacted so many of these safe state Republicans, these boomer Republicans, these even some Generation X Republicans, where it's all about the principle, but the principles don't include the victory. They don't include winning. They include bending over backwards, saying, yes, stick it in there, Democrats. That's what I'm here for. That's what they do. That's all they stand for. They don't stand for you. They don't stand for understanding. I don't know what time it is. This is what they stand for. They stand for bending over backwards to appease the other side that hates them, wants their head on a silver platter, wants their head on a stick, wants them gone, wants them out of politics, wants them in prison, if not worse. If we're going to be completely honest, a good chunk of the other side does, whether they willingly admit it or not. And all I'm asking is you lift a finger and do something Donald Trump wants. And what do they say? What's the quote, by the way? If we are to conserve these values, they must be universal. We cannot pick and choose when we live them and when we set them aside for political. What values is he talking about? Losing? Losing is the Republican value. The only Republicans the left pretends to like are the losers. If we're going to be completely honest, the people that facilitate the defeat of the right and the victory of the left, those are the people that, effectively get spared. It's Stockholm Syndrome. People like this guy, they love to lose, and they're always in these deep red states because who does the donor class buy up in these primaries? Weaklings. That's who they buy. They buy weaklings. That's the problem. You have these losers like Spencer Deary. Nobody's ever heard of this guy. He is controlling the levers of power in the state of Indiana because this is what he does. Everything is about, conservating, or not conservating, that's not really the term, but conserving values that you will hand more power to the side that will, according to your own belief, tear down said values. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. It's stupidity. Now, let's be honest here. This is one guy. Seems like there's going to be enough votes to pass. There were a couple people that came forward today that said they were iffy on it, that now want to go forward with it. Why would you not do this when other Democrat states are doing it? It doesn't matter if other Republican states are. This is a war, and you have to win. That's it. It's all that matters. Virginia, on the other hand, the Democrats know what time it is for them. They're doing everything they can do to possibly draw a map that is very favorable to the Democrats, where you would have a sizable amount of seats in Virginia that would be transferred, I think 3 seats over to their column. And this is what it comes down to. And you could look at this. This would not be allowed to be vetoed by the governor. The Supreme Court cannot stop it. It could be done before the midterms even. And you could see that in Virginia. Before the midterms, Democrats could change that primary date to August. What that could do is they could put this on the ballot, and it could actually end up passing because you'll probably have it in not a midterm year, but a low turnout off year or a special election with this referendum. I think I agree, if it was in a midterm year, they probably would lose, but a special May referendum that has never happened, Democrats probably would go out there and be able to do this. They would gain every seat, but maybe the 9th. Maybe they would allow for a couple more seats to exist for the Republicans. And this is what happens, the so-called principles. The Democrats have this principle that they never follow. And they're writing the rules for Republicans. And then the second Republicans cave, they decide to pounce. They don't stop when you stop. They don't stop. They don't need to stop. They're looking at this. Can you even blame them? No, you can't, because they know you're weak. So why not actually grow some teeth and stop worrying about this old mindset, this antiquated mindset that so many people have, where it's like we need to let them walk all over us because we'll lose with our dignity. No. You have to walk all over them. They're the weak ones. They're supposed to be the weak party. The people that vote for them are extraordinarily weak and unpalatable. Have you ever seen these people on video and pictures and meeting them in real life? Not exactly sending their best, or they are sending their best and they have no best, which is actual reality here. So what are we going to do about this? You have weak Republicans in safe red states. They can't lift the same finger that the Democrats are willing to lift on a whim to destroy you and to draw you out of power. And you can't do the same thing back to them because of some arbitrary mental blockade that is virtually known as Stockholm Syndrome in every other sense of the term, if you apply the same logic to literally anything else. Come on now. Are we going to be honest here? Are we going to be serious? I'm not saying do something stupid and draw like a 9-0 map where you're going to lose. I'm not saying that. But realistically, this was not started by the right. We've been over this. Whether you want to talk about the census, whether you want to talk about nearly every Democrat state, including some of the states where they have the so-called independent commissions that are anything but like California, where Republicans are shorthanded more seats there than they are in many other red states that are supposedly like the worst offenders. Like the current Texas map, it's poorly drawn more so than it is a gerrymander. But now it's going to change. It's going to actually look better, and it's going to be a gerrymander, and it's rightfully going to be a gerrymander because we want to hold what we've built, and we don't want to hand power back to these lunatics and these people. And also, it's to combat what we've seen across the country because Democrats currently, or before this cycle, have been the worst offenders. So we'll show you what it's really like. You always complain about things that you do more than we do. We're going to show you what happens when we actually do it. When you live in the world you live in. They always want to say Republicans are the authoritarians and the fascists and things like that. And people like the Spencer Deary loser is still going to be called those names. He's still going to have his family living under all sorts of threats and all this stuff because he happens to be batting for the wrong team. You know, this is not going to stop that. This is not going to stop that whatsoever. Whether you think it is, whether you want it to, that's not the point here. The main point is that the left hates you, and they're going to hate you no matter what. So why not just draw them out of a seat legally and constitutionally with the power that the people that founded this country gave you, Spencer? Can you get that done? That's all we're asking. It's not asking for much, but you can't deliver. That's on you, and that's a problem. So we're gonna get to some other stuff really quickly here, but you have Indiana, you have Virginia, and then you got the 2025 elections coming up, which we will get to in a second. But 2025 really is heating up. It's heating up big time here. And you have, let's see. You have the first day of in-person early voting in New Jersey. Are Republicans hitting the numbers they need? It's a little bit iffy because you do have good turnout in certain places. That's true. You have high turnout across the board. That's typically a good thing. We like to see high turnout overall. We don't know which way the independents are going to go. That's a big question mark because it is true. Compared to 2024, not exactly where the Republicans may have ideally liked to be. Although they're doing better in mail, they're doing a little bit weaker in person, which is typically not the best course of action given the environment we want to see. But here's also what's true. It's very early. We don't know which way the independents are going to go. You would imagine they'd break more for Trump, or they'd break more for Jack than they broke for Donald Trump. And there's also more of them compared to 2021. Republicans are doing better now compared to 2021. So again, is it better to compare it to a fellow year? Yes, although 2021 was during COVID and Republicans were still a little bit more skeptical of that. If there's a big showing on Election Day and there's a big showing in the remainder, which again, Democrats typically do better earlier in-person early voting in New Jersey. They typically win the first day. They didn't really win it by much this time. So if Republicans can build up their turnout between now and the end of in-person early voting, have a very big showing on Election Day, is it possible that they're going to go out there and win on Election Day? Yes, it is. It is possible that that does indeed happen. There's still a lot that we don't fully know. We will see what happens, but it's not just New Jersey where you have all of this stuff happening. You have New York City's mayoral election where Zohran Mamadi is very likely going to win, and probably by a decent margin. And no, if Curtis Lewa dropped out, it wouldn't change much. And if Cuomo dropped out, it also wouldn't change much. New York City is full of deranged liberals that are going to elect a guy who supports things like, government-run grocery stores, weak on crime policy, etc. This is what this guy on the other side supports. He is going to become the mayor. He parades around with people that think 9/11 was justified in New York City. And he thinks that he's going to become mayor, and he is going to become mayor. Like, that's not entirely the best course of action for New York, but it is the best course of action for people outside New York, because all the sane people from New York, you're going to have more people leaving New York. Where are they going to go? New Jersey, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Florida, Texas, other places, you name it. And those people are not going to be voting Democrat. And if they go to outside of New York City in New York, then that also helps in New York. And it does seem like you have this strange phenomenon, which is also why the popular vote has gotten redder. You have people that are Republican fleeing states like California, New York, etc., and they're moving to swing states, and they're moving to red states. Like Texas is very red now in part because of this, but California is getting significantly redder. New York is also getting significantly redder. It's like over time, the country is becoming more and more right-wing because these policies just are not working, and you have people fleeing these states and these cities. And ironically enough, they're fleeing these places, and the places themselves are becoming redder, which you wouldn't anticipate. You would imagine they get bluer, but I think there is a phenomenon going on here when people leave a place where they see, yeah, something needs to change. We're going to go and we're going to vote for the other side, even if it is the first time, or maybe they've just never voted before. Either way, it's a beneficial thing for Republicans. And a very disastrous thing for the Democrats at hand as well. So you do have the New Jersey race. That's going to be interesting. Virginia, Jay Jones, all those text messages, all those scandals. It's not even just the text messages. It's how he handled it. Then you got the drunk driving case where he decided to go out there and do the community service work for his own company. Who knows what he actually did? That in and of itself was a corruption scandal. And the guy's a train wreck. He's a disaster. He's going to underperform the top of the ticket by around 10 points. Question is, will Spanberger end up winning by over that in order for him to be carried to the finish line? I think not, but you never know. You really never know because of the fact that Abigail Spanberger, she's outspent Winsome Sears by a lot. Winsome Sears has not ran the greatest campaign in the world, and I say that as somebody who hates Abigail Spanberger. So we'll see if she's able to hang on, cross the finish line. Mikey Sherrill leads the polls by 4, but again, she's below 50%. It's shaping up to be a relatively close race. It just matters based on turnout. So far, I think that Sherrill is somebody that's in the driver's seat. I don't think she has to remain there. I think she's lost a lot of momentum. I think Jack has ran a relatively spotless campaign. I'm not trying to blame him for that, but it's a blue state with a Republican president in the White House. It's going to be close, which is still not really the best sign for Democrats overall. Even Virginia, Spanberger may not outrun Kamala Harris by a ridiculous amount against somebody who is running basically a ghost campaign, who's not really doing all that well on the airwaves, on fundraising. It's not really the best sight. And then they're going to elect a mayor who's a crazy person. So here's what the Democrats are going to do. lose a winnable attorney general's race, underperform Kamala Harris in New Jersey, not really outrun her very much in Virginia with somebody who should be outrunning her by like maybe not double digits, but by a decent margin. Spanberger on paper, given the fundamentals of this race, should be winning this by like 12 to 15 points. She's only up by 7. That's not a lot. And then New York City gets to elect a crazy person that happens to, I don't know, be somebody that could just be the poster boy for easy, cheap attacks that the Republicans get to land on them. And what is that going to do nationwide? That's not going to help their brand. And it's not really a strong showing ahead of the midterms because in 2017, they faced a strong Republican in Virginia, outran by a decent margin. New Jersey faced a Republican who had ties to the incumbent Republican administration. That was a little bit of a wash because of how unpopular Chris Christie was. And Bill de Blasio won in New York City by like 40 points. Now, it is true that Mamdani's in some strange race with like, a Democrat who's running as an independent and then a Republican. It's kind of tough. But regardless, it's just the whole thing is a mess. The whole thing is a complete disaster for sure. So we'll be getting to the super chats. We've got quite a bit of them, I'm sure, and that we do. So we will begin. If we could pull this up, it is waiting. And guys, like the stream, let's get to 200 as we wait for the super chats to show up for once, which we have some. I see them on the sidebar. I don't see them in viewer activity. We will have to wait for them to load. And here we go. Nicholas loves traveling for 10, says, as a Hoosier, I hate how Mike Pence and all the RINOs sabotaging Trump's redistricting plan for Indiana. The Indiana GOP is incompetent and a bunch of imbeciles. They ought to be ashamed. I don't get what it is. Rust Belt party in a state that votes heavily Republican, and you can't deliver solid people. Political, like, establishment people that are in these places that just run them into the ground. It's a disaster. You would imagine that they would be able to learn from other places that have done it right and have gotten it done, but they can't do it for one reason or another. Roku Fan 1835 says the console wars are over. I guess they are. I haven't really kept tabs of any of that, but there was that declaration I saw from the White House. I guess they're sort of over. The Video Maker 2341 for 5 says Trump made a peace deal between Xbox and PlayStation. At long last, the console wars now have ended. They apparently have. Kaiser Conquest 6934 says later talk about Argentina and the big victory there. I did see that Malay's party ended up winning in Argentina in the midterm elections, which was huge. American Nerd 76 for 5 says, are Dems so dumb that they don't realize that the White House had lots of renovations ever since it was built? The biggest ones were after 1812 and 1812 was a little bit of a different story because it was basically burned to the ground. But I mean, it's just common sense. You have a White House, you have an East Wing. There should be an event area in the White House. The fact that there's not actually surprises me. And it's kind of a genius move that Trump is doing. They're mad because he's, tearing part of it down? Big deal. It's what happens. When you have a big building or a big house, you're going to have to make renovations on it, whether it's a big stadium or something of that nature. He's a builder. It would kind of not make sense historically. There's somebody that built the White House or to build who is in the White House and has built things to rebuild part of the White House and make it better. That's what the idea of the ballroom, at least in my opinion, does, because now you have a place where people can hold events and it makes sense. So I don't know why people don't want that. They think it's going to be too big. Either way, it makes sense. It's probably one of the smartest things Trump has done during this term. mainly because of the fact that he's paying for it. It would be a little bit different if he's making the taxpayers pay for it. It wouldn't be as much of a political layup, but this is a political layup. It makes sense. It makes a lot of sense for it to happen. So I don't really understand why people are up in arms. They just should admit they don't like Trump instead of whining about a good idea that Trump has. It's derangement syndrome is really what it is. So let's see here. The video maker 2341 says no 8-1, yes to 9-0. Indiana, go big or go. Well, with what Virginia is doing, I think you have to do it. You have to protect as much seats as possible. The left understands power in politics, which is why they draw maps like, even the current so-called independent California map, the Illinois map, the New Mexico map, the Nevada map, the Connecticut map, the Maryland map, the New Jersey map, the New York map, even like the Rhode Island map where they don't even have a competitive seat. Massachusetts is another example where they strategically prevent a competitive seat, but Republicans can't effectively max themselves out in these places. Like, you have control over it, just do it. You understand what the left thinks of you. These are not people in many cases you want to really reason with. So just draw them out if they're already drawing you out, and they're willing to draw you out if you draw them out in certain states where a legitimate correction is needed, like for something like the census, for example, or the Hart-Celler Act transformation. Where are the seats that we get for that? Because nobody voted for that. I didn't vote for that. You didn't vote for that. The Hart-Celler Act is transformed this nation, has added tens of millions of Democrat voters on net that we would have had compared to the alternative reality where it wasn't passed. So again, Democrats want to change the country to benefit them, but we can't change the maps to benefit us. All right, let's talk about this will be our great replacement. We'll just draw you out of power. That's what we'll do. That's what it boils down to. But so many Republicans are just so weak. They don't have the balls. They don't have the balls to do it. So regardless, Kevin S for 2 says those Republican losers need to be primaried. Well, it's a statewide, not even statewide, but state legislature officials that are the people that need to be primaried in this case. But I agree 100%. XJ Cherokee Bear says Mondani had a 30s German mustache man like rally. American Nerd 76 for 5 says, if Spanberger loses, do you think that Democrats are going to claim that Jay Jones caused reverse coattails in favor of Republicans? I don't really believe in reverse coattails, and I'll tell you why after a quick sip of water here. Because reverse coattails are not a thing. People vote for the top of the ticket, then they vote their way down. I think in this case, it would be because of the issue kind of implicating the rest of the ticket. Like Mark Robinson in North Carolina, you're not going to impact a presidential race. But in this instance, if there is reverse coattails, it's not reverse coattails more so than it is how Abigail Spanberger responded to the Jay Jones incident more so than Jay Jones dragging everybody else down. There's a difference there. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but just to answer your question, they may try to blame it, but it's not a thing. So it would be on Spanberger more so than it would be on anybody else if she underperformed. So that would be where I would draw the line, because I don't believe in reverse coattails. They didn't exist in 24, and I still don't believe in them. And until proven otherwise, I will. But I think in this case, it wouldn't be because of some sort of reverse coattails. It would be because of how people reacted to an egregious scandal in a way that was off-putting to voters if Spanberger underperforms. I don't know how well she's going to do. She could win by 4. She could win by 10. She could win by 7. I imagine it's going to be somewhere in between. I don't think that's a great result for her, given how much she has outspent her opponent, given how there is a disparity in candidate quality on paper, in part because of that spending. And she's not doing so well because she comes off as insufferable. Now, Winsome Sears didn't do herself any favors in that debate, but Spanberger, I think, rubbed me the wrong way even more than just somebody who interrupted. But that's just me personally, but I think that that's a lot of people personally, actually. So, by the way, guys, in case you don't know, we have a goal. $9.99 or above Super Chats. We could hit that goal. We're only 2 out of 10 to the way there. But I will tell you guys, in terms of goals, thank you guys for helping us reach our goal for the polling that we put out, because we're going to do a poll in New Jersey and Virginia, and we set a goal of 600. I say I'll pay for one of the polls out of pocket, and I did. And then the other poll, you guys, we will fundraise, and we smashed the goal. We're almost going to double it up. We're at 1139 out of 1250. The original goal was 600, so maybe we'll be able to pull more respondents and capture different methods. Maybe we'll be able to poll nationally sometime soon. I don't know if we're going to go to poll New York City for the mayoral election, but we are 92% of the way to the new goal. So if you guys want to donate and help us get to their our threshold there, feel free. The link will be in the pin chat. So Maryland guy 326 for 5 says, I cannot take 4 more years of Wes Moore as governor. Our taxes are going through the roof, and he already blew our budget surplus. Well, it's Maryland, so good luck to you. I'm gonna be stuck with him. Just he might end up being their nominee. I don't think so, but it's possible. So be careful. In fact, it would probably be one of the smartest decisions that they would do is by putting him up there instead of some of these other people, because things like budgets might impact the state, but they're not really baggage that the national level would care as much about. American Nerd 76, his thoughts on the NBA gambling scandal doesn't surprise me in the slightest. It doesn't. I mean, it's insider trading. It happens. It's against the rules. But who's going to stop people? Like, if you have people that have ties to coaches, that have ties to players, and they say, hey, play this guy who usually doesn't get played, and then you take all the overs on the player props, you're going to be very rich after that. You're going to make a lot of money. And that's what they basically were doing. And I was shocked to see some of the names that were involved. I wouldn't expect Chauncey Billups to really do that kind of stuff, because he usually tries to portray himself as like a stand-up guy, but then he's involved with like the mafia, which is pretty strange. So regardless, it doesn't surprise me in terms of the magnitude of a scandal, although some of the names involved would not have expected, but it is what it is. It's the NBA, and there's 82 games in the season. They do this type of stuff. I mean, it exists to an extent. I'm not saying these games are entirely fixed, but they're rigged. Yes, they are. They are. I mean, Kansas City, if you look at the Kansas City-Detroit game from a couple weeks ago, the players reported as eligible on the Lions, and they were down there, and Amon-Ra St. Brown throws the touchdown to Jared Goff, and they turn it over. Like, after they get a call from after they announce it as a touchdown, they turn it over on a second look. That's never happened before, but it's happened here because they massaged the game. They couldn't let the Chiefs go to 2-4 with Taylor standing up there in the audience. It wouldn't be convenient for them. So they had to get that win to get back to 3-3. They had to save their seasons. They would massage the game. They called so many penalties on Detroit. They didn't call any penalties that were penalties that would have stood on Kansas City. So that should tell you something about how these leagues operate. Now, I still watch from time to time. It's entertainment, but there is that level of like WWE massaging that should not exist. And it is making people, more so than any of the woke stuff, in my opinion, because a lot of that is kind of in the rearview mirror. But that's really what's turning a lot of people off from these products, for sure. Let's see. Olivia Williams says, could you imagine teachers and doctors voting for Jay Jones? Well, a lot of them will. Now, will they know who they're voting for? That's different. Because in many cases, if you're just like a Democrat who doesn't like Trump and you're a normie and maybe you don't like all the other far left stuff, because those people do exist. I think they're dumb. I think they're naive, but they exist. I don't think they're all horrible people. And they vote for Jay Jones because they just don't know, or maybe they don't believe it because they're naive and dumb. Then I don't know if that person is exactly a threat. But there's so many like these Will Stancil types that are a threat. If you don't know who Will Stancil is, it's not just a meme. It's not just this is like the clown that we dunk on. He's a violent person. He's genuinely a violent person. He's tweeting about all this stuff about Trump. Like, they need to look into this guy. As much as it is a joke and as much as it is like an easy target, like he is legitimately an angry person who stokes the flames of left-wing violence on a daily basis. And he, somebody that like cheers on this type of stuff. That type of person does exist in higher numbers than the left would like to admit, and they coddle them and they do everything possible to like make them a wing of their party, essentially. And that's what you get with people like Jay Jones, because Jay Jones is just like the rest of them. He just got outed for it. And I'm not usually somebody that's for leaking the DMs, leaking the text messages, whatever. But if you're running to lead the DOJ and you're saying all this stuff, I think it becomes a necessity, a reasonable public necessity to go out there and just kind of showcase what's going on with this nonsense. That, I think, is the line that needs to be drawn. So we'll see. We have more super chats. Red Whale Politics says Minnesota and Colorado have fair Democrat maps. I agree. We'll see if they try to mess with those next. I don't know if they will or not. Also, Olivia Williams says Wesley Hunt's a DEI pick like Donald's Paxton 26. Well, I disagree with that. Just because somebody happens to be a black candidate does not necessarily make them a DEI pick. Just because there are black candidates out there that have been touted as DEI picks for maybe valid reasons because they do it themselves, including Winsome Sears for the first half of her campaign, where all she would basically say is, I'm campaigning to be the first black female governor of Virginia. Who is that supposed to really appeal to? You're not winning Democrats over because they'll view you as a traitor. Even the black Democrats in particular would view you as a traitor for that. And Republicans, by and large, maybe it gets you more donations, which apparently it hasn't given the fundraising gap, but that doesn't help you. Hunt is somebody that I think is a necessary entrant to the race because you have a primary field with a RINO senator. You have somebody who is a very good attorney general, would be borderline useless in the Senate, and very useful in Donald Trump's DOJ, in Ken Paxton, where I think it would be a blessing in disguise if he lost to Wesley Hunt. And again, it's a primary where it's a three-way race. You could vote for whoever you want. Just don't vote for John Cornyn, and then we'll vote for the primary opponent in the runoff. That's what we'll do. So for Paxton, it's like he's got some scandals. They're going to try to leverage him. It's going to waste resources. With Hunt, you get somebody who would vote like Paxton, and then Paxton can go be more useful if he's like the dark AG, as like a special prosecutor. Let Bondi do her job like she's in 2009, like the meme with the little kid playing with the Legos, not knowing what time it is, because she does a great job on a lot of fronts. When it comes to like the revenge stuff, not so well. Then let Paxton handle that, and then let her handle that, and then let Wesley Hunt just vote in the Senate. That, I think, would be the best course of action. We'll see what happens. I'll vote for Paxton in round 2. I don't hate Wesley Hunt. he's okay. He is not as good as Paxton, but he's much better than Cornyn to the point where they would have identical voting records. So that's my take on that. Peter Misseri for $9.99. By the way, we're halfway to the goal, so feel free to super chat. Yellow or above, we'll hit that goal pretty quickly here. But he says, was in New Jersey today, saw a lot of jack signs, feeling confident through Middlesex and Burlington. Well, that's good. I mean, yard signs are one thing. They're not everything. But I will say the enthusiasm from the base has been strong, where I think you'll see some sort of overperformance, which is still a good sign. It is. I would love to see him win. Will it be enough? I don't know. Again, there's a lot of Democrats still in Newark and places like that. Olivia Williams, 275, says any J. Jones voter should be fired from their jobs. Well, you'd be talking about millions of people. I think there is a distinction between ignorance and actual lunacy. And the people that like cheer on J. Jones and say they want to vote for him because of what he said on Facebook, that's one thing. But like the average voter that doesn't know their head from their ass in the real world, I'm not going to say they got to be fired because they voted for somebody who probably they don't even know anything about for an attorney general's slot. But there's a problem on the left. There truly is. And if he wins, I think it speaks volumes that, hey, there are a lot of people like that who are informed and don't care. And I think that's an issue. But also there's a lot of people that are not informed and don't care. So if it's everybody, a little bit tough with what you're saying. But I agree with what you're trying to get at, especially when it comes down to healthcare and education. Because I don't want doctors performing on people that want so many people dead. And I don't want teachers teaching kids that want kids that they just, especially in this case where it's directly relating to children. I don't want teachers that support people like J. Jones in any knowingly capacity because of what really is at stake here. So that is a problem, in my opinion, and we'll see what happens in 9 days from today. So Strack Game 117 says, keep up the good work, love your stuff. Well, thank you. Rob Roberts, 5244 for 5, says, do you think the Virginia governor's race could have gone red if we had a better candidate than Sears? Honestly, it's possible. I don't know who that candidate would be, but Spanberger was so bad in that debate. But Sears did everything she could to interrupt at every turn. You're not helping yourself. It's like frustrating to watch because there's so many layups. She had good moments, but then she would have the bad moments. And it's just like you're really trying to win over like that voter in like Loudoun County, which you need to at least improve in over like Donald Trump's margin if you want to win the state. And she just dropped the ball there, and it's not something I'm happy about. But that may have been her opportunity to really change the dynamics of this race, and we didn't see that. And that was the only debate. So let's see. Michigan Nationalist says Newsom Moore or Newsom Bashir to defeat Vance 28. I think Bashir is very overrated. I think Vance, again, I think the VP in general is not going to have a monumental impact for either side. I think if Vance is the nominee, I think he's going to pick Rubio, which is a good choice. I think Newsom will probably pick a woman. I think the best he could maybe do is like a Gretchen Whitmer, but that would probably make a lot of the far left base mad, so maybe I'll have to pick somebody else. Like I would say somebody like Elizabeth Warren, but she's so insufferable that I think that would probably even doom his campaign even more. So I don't know who he would pick. So, either way, I think Gavin Newsom is a candidate who is very competitive, but not enough to the point where I would say he's going to beat Vance. Again, it comes down to the economy, comes down to a lot of things, but his track record is god-awful. If you're going to have presidential turnout, I think Vance still wins North Carolina, Pennsylvania, against him, especially North Carolina. So I think it just comes down to Pennsylvania. Who would you trust in Pennsylvania? If Trump's approval's in the high 40s, I'd pick Vance no matter who Newsom's VP is in the state of Pennsylvania against him. So Olivia Williams, 275, says, On Point Politics was arrested corrupt DOJ. Well, I'll let that play out. Again, it does seem like, from what I've heard, that he thinks he's framed of sorts. I don't know what's true or not. I wish him well. I think there's a good chance he ends up getting exonerated, cleared, whatever it is. Again, I met the guy. Doesn't seem like the type of guy to do that type of stuff. But regardless, I don't really have many comments on it. It's not really my issue. But I don't know if you'd say corrupt DOJ or just people that are filing reports with the DOJ that may not entirely be all that accurate. But it's, again, we'll see. That's not my issue. That's not my fight. That's his fight. He has his thing. I have my thing. I wish him well. I think he's innocent until proven guilty. So we'll see if he prevails or if he doesn't in the court of law. But I don't know if it's corrupt DOJ in Ruby Red, Florida. That happens to be why he ended up getting arrested. So American Nerd 76 says, thoughts on the main Democrat with the Nazi tattoos? Well, I hope he becomes the Democrat nominee for other reasons. I mean, he's a clown. Janet Mills is actually not popular. In fact, I think Collins beats both at this stage in the game. Mills probably is the better candidate on paper in terms of being more well-known. Plattner, I mean, the guy's a disaster. He has to come out and do this video apologizing for, threatening to train like far-left communist militants on Reddit against his own voter base, or at least part of the state's voter base. He's trying to win over like Republicans or whatever. It's like he's a Bernie bro. He wants violence against Republicans. How's this exactly going to add up? It's not going to add up. And then he has like a Nazi tattoo on his chest or something. And it's obscure. It looks like a skull to me. I wouldn't be able to tell. I wouldn't be able to deduce it. I just think the whole thing is just dumb. I think it shows that he's just, he's all over the place. And I think he got it covered up or whatever. But it's like, these are the same people that are throwing a temper tantrum right now because somebody wore like an edgy, like Halloween costume along those lines. And it's like, I wouldn't recommend to people to do that sort of thing. But it's like, one is like supposed to be for shock value. The other one is like your guy, and you're trying to, and like the thing is they're trying to use that guy with the costume to say, well, Republicans are bad. This is the right wing. It's like, I don't know what that guy is. Maybe he is right wing, probably is vaguely, maybe not so political, just trying to, utilize edginess to get whatever point he wants across or whatever. It's not my problem. But, you look at what's going on with the Senate candidate, and that's, they'll sweep it up. They'll pull out the broomsticks and sweep it up for this guy. And it's just like, okay, well, you understand. And the thing is, they understand what gets them political points is all they care about. They want to win at all costs. But the right can't draw out a district in Indiana. Little bit frustrating that so many on the right just have the Stockholm syndrome. So, John Waffle for 20 says, Spanberger, former CIA, you think would be easily exposed. Well, if anything, you think she would have the opposition research file, given the fact she's former CIA more so than not. So Noah Congolo for 9 says, thoughts on Crockett possibly running for Senate? Well, she would get decimated, probably even in a primary. She's not going to do too well in South Texas or wherever. And that also answers the next question from American Nerd 76 because he asked the same thing. The base cat with the member chat Says, who's worse, Democrat boomers or Zoomers? The failed No Kings rally had a lot of gray hair. Maybe this will push the younger generations right. Well, the boomers will happen to believe that the like violent streak of the young left isn't real. So I think the young left is more of a problem in that regard. But who actually votes is the boomer Dems. I mean, that's why Republicans get, absolutely destroyed in every little special election. It's because the No Kings protester, that's the type of person that shows up for that sort of thing. So midterm year, maybe a little different, higher engagement, but is it going to be high enough? It comes down to things like age, educational attainment in multiple ways that do not benefit the Republicans. Now, presidential year is a little bit different. I don't think it's a Trump thing specifically, although the way the realignment is shaking out, it benefits Democrats when less people show up, which was not the case in the past. So Peter Misseri, 4-5, says, my father is a registered Republican like me, voting for Cuomo over Sliwa because he thinks Cuomo has a better chance. I think he's stupid. Well, none of them have a chance. Cuomo might have a better chance, but I'd rather just shove the middle finger to both Cuomo and Zoran and vote for Sliwa because he's somewhat entertaining and he has an R next to his name, and he kind of showcases that, the best you could really do for an opposition candidate was some guy who is also awful. Are we forgetting? The average voter that even votes for Zoran, a good chunk of them probably are voting to stop Cuomo because of how bad Cuomo's been as governor. It's a matter of ignorance more so than anything, but that's really what it is. Cuomo's not going to have a shot. John Waffle for 10 says Miare should have ran for governor. We would have had it. Well, maybe. I think it would have been a better candidate, but I think the attorney, maybe with the Jay Jones stuff, you would have seen Republicans hold. I think you would have actually seen Republicans hold that slot, but we'll see if Miares is even able to hold it. But I think the top of the ticket would have a big impact, and I think Miares would be very competitive with Spanberger. I'm not saying he would have beaten her, but it would have been much closer, and I think he would have destroyed her in the debate. And I don't think that she really won it. I just think that Sears did everything she could do to lose voters that maybe she otherwise could have gotten. Because you have a crazy person on the other side. She doesn't answer a question. She smirks like a sociopath. And your response to that, your knee-jerk reaction is just to interrupt at every turn and kind of make that the story of the debate. That's the worst thing that you could do. It's not like you're trying to belittle her and make her look weak. You're supposed to come off as the more compassionate one here because she's the sociopath who's defending somebody that wants to murder children. So she had some good answers. I'm not denying that. And then she had some really bad moments. And those bad moments, I feel like at times may have overshadowed it. You could say I'm dooming, whatever. I think Democrats have a very good chance of winning all these races except Virginia Attorney General. I'm keeping it real, but either way, I don't think their performance is going to be ridiculously all that solid, which is upsetting because I would like Jack to win. It would be much better if he won. I don't think anybody thinks that Sears has much of a shot at this point. I mean, these are both blue states. American Nerd 76's thoughts on Israel wanting to take the West Bank. Well, I don't think it's a good idea because what they would be doing is you have this peace deal and it's working and you want to rip that up for another conflict, and Trump isn't going to let that happen. All the people that say Trump is the shill for Israel, he's really not. He just wants peace. He likes Israel, but he wants peace. He doesn't want them getting involved in a conflict that probably isn't really going to be all that great for them because they're going to lose even more support from other Western nations, including the United States, because the United States is touting this peace deal as a victory for the U.S., a victory for Israel, a victory for the Arab world. It just makes sense not to say, just say don't go into these places. We need peace in the region. It's better for Israel. It's better for the Arab world. It's better for the United States. It's better for everybody. That's the way it is. So American Nerd 76 says maybe Miares is waiting for 2029 to run for gut. Well, I think Youngkin's probably the best bet to run in 29. So, let's see. I think that's it for Super Chats, at least for now. If we have 4 people that are so generous enough to help us hit our goal, that'd be great. Otherwise, we could peruse the regular chat, see what some of you guys have to say. Go from there. But, yeah, Youngkin would need the perfect situation for... Yeah, now's probably not the best time. What do I think about repealing the Permanent Apportionment Act of 20? I have not looked at that. I'm unsure of what that even does. Oh, keeps it at 435. I think 435 is a good number. I really do. I don't see why you'd need to alter that. We're not adding states. I don't think we need to add states. Puerto Rico shouldn't be a state. It should be a territory. D.C. shouldn't be a state. It should be a territory, but they do already get voting access at the presidential level. Would I go on Timcast? I would. I might go on in December. We'll see. Does the Newsom-Whitmer ticket win Michigan? Possibly. Michigan's going to be close in 28. I think Republicans have a better shot at running away with Pennsylvania because at least you got party registration and a way to effectively target voters there that you just don't have in Michigan. But Vance at least keeps the Trump edge with like protectionist policy, other things. So we'll see. Kalshi's still paying 4 or 5 to 1 on Chitterelli. Sounds tempting. Well, maybe. Kalshi's good. Again, you go find my video. You could sign up with the code. We've got several videos. You can actually get 10 cents, or not 10 cents, $10 for free play on Kalshi. The link is in the video. What was the last video we did where we posted the link? I think it was not this past New Jersey video we did, but the video before that. The video 6 days ago, Jack just got a major boost to his campaign. That video should have it, and you guys can see it there too. So, guys, I think we're probably gonna wrap it up soon. This will be the last call for Super Chats. Last call. We've covered at length the 2025 races. Indiana, Republicans showing cowardice. They've lost their ability to not have Stockholm Syndrome. I think that's the best way to put it. And they just want to lose because they're beautiful losers. They want to lose with grace and whatever, and they just want to throw their hands up and hand the country over to the people that literally want their head on a stick in many cases. In many cases. That is not how a winning party operates, especially in a state as deep red as Indiana. Texas has some fight in them. Florida's got some Florida man fighting them. Indiana, they just fold. But I think it's going to pass. It just, the logic, even if it does pass, behind some of these weak Republicans will never seem to be something I could ever wrap my head around. Because you just understand what time it is, please. Understand what you're up against. Understand the electorate. Understand the issues you need to talk about and appeal to. This is why the Republicans lose down ballot even more so than the top of the ticket recently, because they fail to connect with voters on issues that matter. Jack's doing a good job in New Jersey. That's why he's outrunning Donald Trump right now, in part. But so many other Republicans are just unable to do that, and that is why, specifically, they consistently go out there and get destroyed without Donald Trump on the ballot. Patriot345 says it's going to be hard, but we can win New Jersey. I'm not losing hope. Best case, Jack wins by 2. Worst case, Cheryl wins by 5. I agree with that. I agree 100%. That's about the window I would look at. Also, vote in New Jersey and Virginia and Pennsylvania. We can't forget about Pennsylvania, or anywhere there's an election, no matter what it's for. Get out and vote. Get out and vote. So, yeah, we will wrap things up. We've been live for a little bit over an hour, and that's just the way it goes. So I'll see you guys next time. Make sure you guys like the stream down below, subscribe, hit the bell. I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle out.